thriller person? Are you this person? I'm interested to see how British people receive it, because I think, like, you know, you got, because as I said, I think it is like an interrogation about Britishness, um, and also this kind of intersecting diasporic identity that we have, or that we're gravitating to, where, you know, one generation from now, you're going to have people who are Nigerian who don't know where they're from in Nigeria. You're going to have people who are as Nigerian as they are Caribbean, and or as West African as they are Caribbean, I should say. And so I think this issue of identity and this issue of being kind of marooned here in our Britishness is going to just get bigger. So I like to think that this is part of this, the beginning of this conversation. Some people, I think, may have been like, oh, you're not Nigerian, writing about Nigeria, but I think that is like missing the point. I think the conversation has to be like a diaspora conversation. And I think it's really interesting to interrogate identity from West Africa. Why do we have to interrogate it from the UK or America? You know, I think it's
expat experience being told from, you know, like you said, that diasporic lens, which is really, really important. And for the Niger wives, the community, how have they work? Have they felt, how do they feel represented by the work that's there?
Yeah, I was so nervous about the Niger wives because I felt so guilty, because I put them under this huge spotlight they've never been under before. All of a sudden, I know people in Nigeria will be like, oh yeah, let's talk about these Niger wives. And I felt so responsible for how I portrayed them. And I didn't want Nicole's experience to be necessarily representative, or I didn't want my perspective of Niger wives to come to be the measure of Niger wives. I'm just one person. And I felt like I was very much critiquing the Niger wives, actually. And also with Nigeria very conservative, and then having this Niger wife who goes and does all these like crazy things, I felt like it might make them feel exposed or sort of disrespected. But I was shocked. Like, so they want to use it to see how can they support the Niger wives more, because as I said, it's a shared experience. So realizing that, oh, actually we're all having this experience, but we don't know because we don't talk about it. How can we make sure we talk about these things and have avenues for talking where we're not feeling it, and avenues for helping, anticipating and helping each other. One incident that really struck me was when I went on a welfare visit to an old people's home in Lagos, which an old people's home is already an unusual thing in Nigeria. And this old people's home, it had a Niger wife there who had been found abandoned in Barbados. But she was found very elderly and not able to communicate where she was from. This story of how she came to be abandoned and ending up in this home, you know, where she eventually passed away, very much affected me, because obviously she didn't come to Nigeria by herself. She may have married, she may have had children, who knows, but this was the end of her life, laying in a gutter and just being rescued by strangers. And that is like a Niger wife fear, right? That when my husband passes away, or should we break up, if I have children and they've left the country, or if I don't have children, some Niger wives don't have children, then who is going to look after me in this place where there's no like social security, right? And I think these are things that the Niger wives, because they've got an incredibly aging population, a lot of the Niger wives had been in Nigeria 50 years. A lot of the Caribbean Niger wives had been in Nigeria for like 50 years. And they are in their 80s and 90s now. A lot of them are widows. And it's like, you know, who's going to look after us? You can imagine as well, by this time, your blood ties from wherever you came from have gone. Those young people don't know you. You have no home to go back to. And if you go back, you can't afford to support yourself. So these are real questions for Niger wives to consider, and I think the book has helped them to face those questions.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I love the power of stories to just open up these kinds of conversations, probably things that they had wanted to discuss individually but hadn't found like that kind of touchstone moment. So, yeah, that's incredible. I don't know how we're doing for time.
Well, I wanted to read a little bit, and then maybe we could do a Q&A.
Sure. Yeah.
And then after that, I'll be signing books outside. So I'm just going to read from the prologue. Nicole often wondered what had happened to the body. A few months after she arrived in Lagos, a body appeared in the lagoon close to the compound, bobbing along in a blanket of trash. A bloated staff water. The barrel-shaped torso and splayed limbs, blackened where the skin was exposed, greenish-yellow where submerged, suggested it was a man. She stared through the railings for a long time, despite the stench. He was so close she could have reached him with a pole. From a distance, the lagoon surface had appeared smooth, a mirror to the sky. But now, for the first time, she really saw the trash that came and went in this bottleneck between Takwa Bay and Victoria Island. The random shit the city spewed out, a minestrone of sweet wrappers, cardboard fragments, buckled coat hangers, paint pot lids, foils from biscuits, split Indomie noodle packets, buckets with holes in them, cut grasses, jagged shards of wood, polystyrene food trays, spar plastic bags, pure water sachets, corroded poles, a flash mob of flip-flop parts, all of it turning over in the heat like a spit roast. She was not alone in her interest. A white heron balanced on a cracked bucket, its long orange beak swiveling as it appraised the various articles nearby. Two men had moored their low-slung canoe a respectful distance from the house and cast small nets. Neither party seemed to notice the body, or her, or the West African sun climbing toward its fiery zenith. The waiting fishermen were more focused on the waterfront mansion with its swaying palm trees, sparkling swimming pool, and verdant garden, trying to imagine life on the other side of the electrified barbed wire-topped fence. Daydreaming as such, it was as if they were all seeing, but not really, the rotten fruit, soda bottles, the twisted inner sole of a shoe, and the body bumping up and down in tandem with everything else. They were oblivious to just another piece of garbage. Perhaps to them, a body was just a body. She knew there were occasionally dead animals in the water, cows, pigs, dogs, rats, and the smell was just the smell. "Close the windows so the stink doesn't come in," Tonye said. Her husband refused to look outside. When she mentioned calling the police, he scoffed at the idea. "In this Nigeria?" "And what happens to the body?" she asked. "What happens to the trash?" Tonye shrugged. "Who knows?" She remembered a strange feeling after he said that. tension in her shoulders. At the time, she didn't understand it, but now she knew it was fear. She was afraid. She'd never been afraid of him before.
This is such a beautifully written novel. I think it's pitched perfectly between that literary, very evocative, lush language, and also just really pacey and funny. You know, you've really captured the way Nigerians speak, especially that sort of Lagos vibe. And yeah, so congratulations again on a brilliant novel. And we'll open it out to questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
I'm trying to choose a question to add. Okay, what was your writing process like? Because you said that you've written the book. Oh, can anyone hear me?
Yeah,
Oh.
okay.
You say you've written the book over a period of 6 years. Like, how did you start it and how did you finish it?
So I think the book began really almost like a blog. I think I actually have a weird blog somewhere online. I don't have the password to move it. And I think it's called like Diary of a Lagos Housewife or something. And then I think there's also like a homeschool blog because I was homeschooling my kids at the time. And those kind of petered out after a while. But basically those were really just detailing my day. And that was like really fun to do. But they're not really giving context. So I remember when I was doing my Lagos housewife blog, my Nigerian friend said, "Oh, so you're really just making fun of us." So I was like, okay, I need more context to this. So I think it didn't really work for me as a form. And so I just started to write as if I'm telling someone what this life is like, but I just keep going. And maybe I did several thousand words of that. And then I was like, but it's boring now. So I need to something else. It can't just be my days. It's got to be something bigger than that. And so just kept sort of adding elements, and it just grew from there. Anyone else?
I have a non-book question. Would you ever move back to Lagos?
Oh yeah, like Lagos was just the most fun place I lived. And it's like a tough place, but I think what I like about Lagos is that it's very black. It's very sociable. I think that's partly the weather. So just so many nights just sitting, chatting with friends or like being out. I love the sort of intergenerational party vibe. I loved the sort of Lagos kind of optimism. I think Lagos attracts a certain kind of person. Like to survive in Lagos, you have to be sociable, you have to be kind of driven. And I think I enjoy that energy. So it's quite like New York in that energy, but New York has terrible winters.
I always say Lagos is New York on steroids. Like Lagos is the next level.
The difference with Lagos and New York is like, Lagos, you'll ask someone to do something and they'll be like, oh, I'll do it now, I'll do it. New York, they'll be like, it's done. That frustration in Lagos to get things done.
Yes.
New York, it's done by midday. And they're like, what next? But yeah, very, like people get up early in Lagos, like Nigerian women in Lagos were so impressive to me. Like everyone's working on their 5 income streams and they're discussing it openly, boasting like I'm up to 4, and you know, moving to New York, where even though it's a very feminist and driven city, like I'm saying to someone, you know, my neighbor, have you got your 5 income streams? She's like, what are those? You know, so I feel like Nigerian women are just very impressive in terms of being entrepreneurial, in terms of turning their hand to things in a confident way that really they don't even like, it's like they've got that confidence of a mediocre white man here because they've got no experience and yet they've now taken it on and within a few months it's a viable business, you know? So very high work ethic, and also I think just this feeling of like we're more than just one person, you know, there's a shared vision to things, which I also really loved. Yeah, I like the directness of Lagos too. People speak their mind. It's kind of similar to Jamaica in that way. And also I like the traditions, the cultural traditions. I like getting a sense of myself that's not rooted in whiteness. I like, for example, when I came to Nigeria, I'm realizing, okay, beige is not a color. Right? This is a Western idea. It's actually not a color. Like, so, you know, we're actually wearing colors in Nigeria, you know, and we are not afraid to show ourselves off as Black women. We're celebrating our skin tones. We're celebrating our fuller figures. We are. I think that the energy is to assimilate. It's to be this. It's to conform, and there's safety in that here. But in Nigeria, you want to be a peacock. You want to stand out. You want to advertise how much money you have, or advertise your great taste in clothes, or advertise your, you know, how beautiful you are. And, you know, not to say there's nothing problematic about that, but that was a refreshing change. Like the focus is different. And to have status in a way that we don't have status here. To feel like, which is like, again, I'm not saying it's not problematic, but in the West, to be a housewife has been degraded. To be a mother has been degraded. To be an elderly woman has been degraded. Whereas in Nigeria, all these things are elevated. And that was really kind of heartwarming to see. If I'm on the street with my children and my children are crying, complete strangers will come to investigate. And, you know, and that sense of like being of value and being in a community, for boys to feel like, I know it has, the pendulum may have swung too far, but for boys to feel, Black boys to feel treasured, is very different in the UK. In the UK, they are a burgeoning threat. And in Nigeria, they are treasured. And men show affection to each other in Nigeria without inhibition. And I love that also. To know that you could be related to people creates a stronger sense of a community. So that also creates more of a sense of safety, and the way people treat each other. So many things make it an enjoyable experience for me. In addition to which, I've got so many friends now there, so I miss those friends who are, you know, I've made new friends in Lagos since I left, which is quite funny. Like, I've got a whole new range of online friends now that I need to meet in Lagos. But it's interesting to me that I'm still making friends in Lagos, even though I haven't been there for 5 years. I now have more friends. So that's a sign to me that this is a place I gravitate towards.
Love it.
So to ask a question, I don't know how much you can say about the book deal adaptation because I've seen some adaptations that don't go as right. Do you have any like non-negotiables about how you want this to be seen?
You know what? I don't really, and maybe I should. I think because it's Amy, I feel very relaxed. Then perhaps if it wasn't Amy, or if it wasn't someone who was Nigerian or someone who was black, then I might worry as to what they're seeing. But I feel like with Amy, apart from her being so wise and so proudly Nigerian, I think that I'm just interested to see what she brings to the project. It doesn't even have to be my vision of the project. I want to see what she brings. And the person who's writing the script is a British Nigerian girl called Yarrow Timibio. She just had a film in Sundance or something called Essex Girls. So she's working on the screenplay, and her family is actually Ijaw. So again, she really understands the world of the characters, but she's bringing something even more authentic than what I'm bringing. So I'm just super interested, more than worried, to see what they add. I think also when you have a production company, I don't know if that's the right word, like HBO, who have really high value qualities, I think I'm not too worried about, again, what the production values will be like. I know they're going to want to hire the best actors they can get, so like your dream actors for all of these parts. So I'm just really excited at every stage.
Do you have any dream actors?
Oh, yeah. Well, I could tell you some of my dream actors just because I don't think they will be right. Only because, they were maybe my dream actors like a few years ago, but I think they're going to have aged out. Right? But imagine Chiwetel playing Tonye, I think he would be amazing. Just really be able to have a really complex, character. I had thought of Kerry Washington for Nicole, because again, I just think she's an amazing actress, and I think, and she's also kind of a Nigel wife. And she has Jamaican heritage, so she's bringing a lot to that role as well. But again, I think she'll have aged out for that role. But there are rumors that she might direct, 1 or 2 episodes. So I'm interested in that also. And then, there's so many interesting younger characters now that I don't remember all of their names, but imagine Daniel Kaluuya, he's amazing. So I'm just excited to see what happens. I think Amy had even suggested Lashana Lynch for Nicole. So again, I think Amy has her own ideas, but Lashana is an amazing actress, right? Even though she doesn't necessarily, I didn't picture Lashana as the Nicole character. I think it's interesting that Amy brought that, and I'd just be excited to see Lashana in that role.
Is there anything that you would, if you were to write the book again, is there anything that you would change?
That is a good question. I feel like, for me, writing is like a bit of a cliche. Writing is like an artwork, it's never really finished, right? It's just a